I was standing in a garden, trying to breathe, when I realized history was repeating itself. 35 years ago, a wealthy family told me I wasn't worthy of their son. Tonight, a wealthy family told my son I wasn't worthy of his future. And standing in front of me, looking like he'd seen a ghost, was the man who'd let it happen the first time. William Ashford, after all these years.
But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here.
It started 3 weeks earlier when my son called me. "Mom, I'm bringing someone to dinner this weekend. Someone special. Her name is Victoria." The nervousness in his voice made me smile. My son, brilliant surgeon, confident in the OR, reduced to nerves by a woman. I can't wait to meet her, sweetheart. But the first time I met Victoria Hale, I knew something was wrong. Saturday evening, I cooked all afternoon. Made all Daniel's favorites: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie from my grandmother's recipe. I cleaned the house twice, changed clothes 3 times. I wanted to make a good impression. The doorbell rang at 6. Daniel stood there with a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Tall, polished, beautiful in that cultivated way that requires time and money. Designer dress, perfect hair, expensive jewelry. "Mom, this is Victoria Hale. Victoria, my mom, Eleanor Brooks." I extended my hand. Victoria shook it. Her hand was soft, manicured. Mine was rough from years of work. She smiled, but something in her eyes was measuring me. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Daniel has told me so much about you." We sat down to dinner. Victoria looked around the small dining room. I saw her eyes take in the modest furniture, the worn carpet, the small television visible through the doorway. Her smile never faltered, but something shifted in her expression. "This is lovely," she said, gesturing to the pot roast. "So, homey." The way she said homey made it sound like a consolation prize. Daniel didn't notice. He was happy, animated, telling Victoria stories about growing up in this house. She smiled at him, touched his arm, said all the right things. But when she looked at me, that measuring assessment returned, like she was doing math, adding up what I represented, subtracting it from what Daniel could be. "Daniel tells me you worked in the hospital cafeteria," Victoria said, cutting her pot roast into tiny pieces. She'd taken small portions, barely touching her plate. "That must have been honest work." "It was," I said. "Good people, good benefits, allowed me to put Daniel through college." "How fortunate," she smiled. "Daniel is lucky to have had such a dedicated stepmother." The way she said stepmother landed differently, not warm, like a technicality, like I was a placeholder. "I was lucky to have him," I said. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course." After dinner, Victoria excused herself to make a phone call. "Work emergency. I'll just step outside." Through the window, I watched her walk into my front yard, phone to her ear. And then I saw it. The moment she thought no one was watching, her face changed. The polite smile dropped. She looked back at the house, my house, and her expression was disdain, dismissal. She spoke into the phone, gestured at the house, laughed at something. Her whole body language was different, relaxed, real. This was who she actually was. When she came back inside, the mask was firmly in place. Perfect smile, perfect manners. They left an hour later. Daniel hugged me. "What do you think, Mom?" I wanted to say, "Something's wrong. She's not what she seems." But instead I said, "She's lovely, sweetheart. I'm happy for you." He drove away. I stood in my small house and felt a familiar dread. I'd seen that look before, that measuring, dismissive look. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The way she'd said, homey, the way she'd looked at my house when she thought I couldn't see, the way stepmother had sounded, like it meant not real. 2 weeks later, Daniel called. "Mom, Victoria's parents want to meet you. They're having dinner at their house this Friday. Can you come?" My stomach dropped, but I said, "Of course, sweetheart." I bought a new dress, navy blue, simple but elegant, did my hair, wore the pearl earrings Jack had given me 25 years ago. I looked in the mirror and saw a 63-year-old woman trying very hard to look like she belonged somewhere she suspected she didn't. Friday evening, Daniel picked me up. We drove into the hills to an address in one of those old money neighborhoods. The Hale estate appeared through the dusk. Spanish Revival architecture, gardens lit with small lights, the kind of tasteful wealth that whispers rather than shouts. The moment I saw it, I knew. I'd been right all along. Mrs. Margaret Hale answered the door. Early 60s, elegant in the way women with money and time can be. "Eleanor, how wonderful to finally meet you. Please come in." The house was beautiful. Hardwood floors, expensive art, French doors opening to a garden. Everything perfect, carefully curated. Dr. Richard Hale rose from a leather chair, tall, silver-haired, distinguished. "Mrs. Brooks, pleasure." Victoria emerged from the kitchen. "Eleanor, I'm so glad you could come." We sat down to dinner. The table was set with china that probably cost more per plate than my monthly grocery bill. 3 forks. I knew which one to use. I'd worked at a country club 35 years ago and learned these things. The conversation was pleasant. They asked about my work. I explained I'd worked hospital cafeteria for years, recently retired. They nodded politely. Asked how Daniel and I met. I explained his mother had left when he was young. I'd married his father, raised Daniel after his father died. They listened with practiced interest. "How remarkable," Mrs. Hale said. "You must be very proud of Daniel." I am, every single day. Dessert came, some complicated French pastry. Wine was poured. I started to relax. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe this was just a nice dinner. Then Dr. Hale set down his wine glass. "Daniel, Victoria's mother and I would like to discuss something with you. An opportunity." I gripped my napkin under the table. "We'd like to offer you the position of Chief of Cardiology at Hale Medical Group. It's a role that typically takes 15 years to achieve. We're offering it to you in 3. Daniel's eyes widened. "Chief of Cardiology? That's incredible." "It is," Mrs. Hale said smoothly, "and it comes with incredible responsibility." Her eyes slid to me, "which is why we need to discuss something important. Daniel, if you marry our daughter, you'll be joining the Hale legacy. But that requires certain adjustments." Daniel frowned. "Adjustments?" Dr. Hale leaned forward. "Let's be direct. Your mother is a single mother, a stepmother who raised her late husband's child. She worked in a hospital cafeteria. Honest work. We respect it." He paused. "But our institution is built on legacy. Our donors expect lineage, stability, not underdog stories." Mrs. Hale's voice softened. "These narratives are popular. The single mom who worked 3 jobs, the stepmother who sacrificed everything. Very Hallmark movie, very inspiring. But our world doesn't run on inspiration. It runs on confidence. And confidence comes from knowing the people at the top come from the right places." My face burned. "Your background creates optics problems," Dr. Hale continued. "A chief of cardiology whose mother was a cafeteria worker, whose family structure is complicated, it raises questions, makes donors uncomfortable, suggests we're lowering our standards." Victoria spoke quietly. "Daniel, my parents are offering you everything. They just need you ready to move forward, not anchored to a past that doesn't reflect where you're going." Mrs. Hale touched his hand. "We're not asking you to abandon your mother, just the appropriate distance, an occasional phone call, but not visible involvement, not at galas or donor dinners, a quiet separation." Daniel's knuckles went white. "You want me ashamed of where I came from." "We want you strategic about where you're going," Dr. Hale said. "Your mother has lived her life. Now it's your turn. That requires leaving certain associations behind." I stood. My chair scraped against hardwood. "Excuse me, I need air." I walked through French doors into their garden, out into cool night air, away from their perfect house, their perfect world I'd never belonged to. I stood there trying to breathe, trying not to collapse under the weight of being told, again, that I wasn't good enough. Because I had been here before, 35 years ago. I heard footsteps behind me. Expected Daniel, but the voice was older, male, achingly familiar.
Eleanor?
I froze. That voice. I knew that voice, but it couldn't be. I turned slowly. A man stood in the doorway, backlit by house lights. Silver hair where dark used to be. Lines around eyes that used to be smooth. But the shape of his face, the way he stood, the look in his eyes. William? He stepped into the light, stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. My God, Eleanor Brooks, after all these years. My legs went weak. William Ashford. Here, in this garden, after 35 years of silence, of wondering, of believing I'd never see him again. I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't breathe. I live next door, he said, voice shaking. Margaret Hale is my half-sister. She invited me tonight, said she wanted me to meet Daniel's mother. His eyes were wide, disbelieving. I had no idea it was you. Margaret Hale, his sister, which meant Catherine Ashford was her mother, which meant this family. The realization hit me like cold water. Your sister, I heard myself say. Your sister just told my son to erase me from his life if he wants their approval. William's face went pale. What are you talking about?
I couldn't answer him. Not yet.
Because standing in this garden, looking at his face, all I could see was 35 years ago. I was 28, leaving my shift at the country club, and I saw her, waiting by the service entrance. Catherine Ashford. Elegant, pearl earrings, Chanel suit, standing by a black Mercedes like she had every right to intercept my life. Miss Brooks, we should talk. Somewhere private. I followed her to the car, sat in the passenger seat. Leather interior that probably cost more than I made in a year. She didn't waste time. My son is engaged to be married. The wedding is in 3 months. He will not throw away his future for a waitress. I was stunned. Engaged? He never... She cut me off. I don't care what fantasies he's entertained you with. They end now. He told me he loved me. Her smile was cold. Men his age confuse passion with love. But I know my son, and I know what's best for him. She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope, placed it on my lap. $5,000, more than you'd make in 6 months. You will resign from the club. You will not contact my son. You will disappear. I stared at the envelope, couldn't move. Her voice softened, became almost kind. If you truly care about William, you'll let him have the life he deserves. You don't belong in that life, Miss Brooks. Surely you can see that. He should get to choose. He's choosing. He's marrying someone suitable. You are a distraction, a very common one. Her voice hardened. And if you refuse, I will make sure you never work anywhere respectable in this county again. I have that power. I will use it. She gestured to the envelope. Take the money. Start over somewhere else. Forget my son. Because if you stay, if you fight this, you will lose, and you'll lose ugly. Is that what you want? To be humiliated, destroyed, or walk away with dignity and $5,000? I picked up the envelope. My hands shook. Catherine smiled. Smart girl. I thought you might be reasonable. I need to think. There's nothing to think about. You have until Friday to resign. If you're still here Monday, I'll assume you've chosen the hard way. She leaned across me, opened the passenger door. Goodbye, Miss Brooks. I'm sure this works out for the best. I got out, stood there with that envelope in my hands. I stood there for 20 minutes. And the worst part? I believed her. I looked at that money and thought, she's right. I don't belong in his world. He'll resent me eventually. This is mercy. So I took the money. I resigned. I left town that weekend. And I never told William I was pregnant. Because by then, I believed what his mother told me. That I wasn't good enough. That I'd ruin his life. That disappearing was the kindest thing I could do. 2 weeks later, in a motel room in Sacramento, I miscarried. Alone, bleeding and terrified. When it was over, I lay on that bed and thought, she was right. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't enough. The memory faded. I was back in the garden. William was staring at me, waiting for an answer. But I couldn't speak, because the pattern was so clear now, it was almost funny. Almost. 35 years ago, his mother told me I wasn't good enough. Tonight, his sister told my son the same thing. The same family, the same cruelty, the same message. People like us don't belong in their world.
Eleanor, William said quietly, what happened? What did Margaret say to Daniel?
Before I could answer, Daniel's voice cut through the garden.
Mom?
I turned. Daniel stood in the doorway, Victoria behind him, her face uncertain. The Hale parents behind them, expressions tight. He walked toward me, not fast, deliberate, like he was making a decision with every step. William stepped back, giving us space. Daniel reached me, took my hand. Then he turned to face the Hale family. This woman is the reason I'm standing here in a white coat. Dr. and Mrs. Hale stood silent. Victoria looked at the ground. When I was 18 months old, my biological mother left, just walked out. My father tried to raise me alone, barely keeping us afloat. When I was 5, my dad met Eleanor. She chose us. She didn't have to love me. I wasn't her child. But she promised she'd never leave. And when I tested that promise, when I did everything a scared kid does to push away the person he's afraid of losing, she stayed. His grip on my hand tightened.
When I was 12, my father died. Construction accident.
Eleanor was 39, suddenly widowed with a boy who wasn't legally hers. Social workers said I should go to foster care. Eleanor fought, borrowed money for legal fees, went to court, became my legal guardian. Because she'd promised a 5-year-old she'd never leave, and she meant it. He was crying now.
She worked 2 jobs to put me through college. When that wasn't enough, she took a 3rd. When I needed money for my MCAT, she canceled her own dental appointment to pay for it. I watched her wince when she ate for months because she'd given me her dental money. She stood on stage at my med school graduation in a dress from Macy's and placed my white coat on my shoulders. That white coat belongs to both of us. He turned to Dr. Hale. You say my mother's background creates optics problems. I say her background is the only reason I have any standards at all. You call her story a Hallmark movie. I call it love, the kind you choose every day when there's nothing in it for you. His voice was steady now. Your offer was generous, but if the price is abandoning my integrity, I don't want it. He turned to me. Let's go home, Mom. I couldn't move, couldn't speak.
Victoria stepped forward, crying. Daniel, wait. Can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. Mrs. Hale's voice was ice. You're making a mistake. You won't get an opportunity like this again. I know, and I'm fine with that. William's voice cut through. Margaret, Richard, stop this. He stepped forward. 35 years ago, I let our mother tell a woman I loved that she wasn't good enough, that she should disappear. And I let it happen because I was weak and scared. He turned to me. Eleanor, that woman was you, and I've regretted it every day since. He walked to his sister. Margaret, you're doing to Daniel what Mother did to me, asking him to choose wealth over integrity. Don't make him repeat my mistake. His voice dropped. I understand why. We were raised to believe our worth comes from exclusivity, that accepting someone like Eleanor threatens that if we admit hard work matters more than pedigree, we have to admit our advantages were just luck, and that terrifies us. He looked at Dr. Hale, but that's exactly what it is. Luck. Birth. Nothing we earned. And the cruelty we used to protect it, calling Eleanor's life a Hallmark movie, dismissing sacrifice as an optics problem, that doesn't make us better than her. It proves we're afraid. He turned back to us. Don't apologize for this choice. You're choosing integrity. That's real leadership. Then to his sister. If you can't see that Daniel and Eleanor are better than anything this family has produced, you've become exactly like Mother.
Silence.
Daniel broke it. Mr. Ashford, thank you, but we're still leaving. William pulled out a card, held it to me. Eleanor, my number. When you're ready. I'd like a chance to know you again. as who we are now. I took it. I need time. Take all the time you need. Daniel and I walked to his car, got in. He sat there, hands gripping the wheel. Did I just ruin my career? No, baby. You saved your soul. He drove us home, to our small house in our modest neighborhood. We sat at the small kitchen table. William Ashford, Daniel said. That's him, isn't it? From before Dad. Yes. You were pregnant. Yes. And his family drove you away, just like tonight. Yes. Silence. Then, are you going to call him? I don't know. Whatever you decide, I'm here, like you were always here for me. I reached across the table, took his hand. Tell me what you remember, when you were 5, when you met me and your dad. He smiled sadly. The playground. Dad took me there because I was so quiet after she left. I didn't trust people, especially women. Then you were there, sitting on a bench, not trying to get my attention, just there. I picked a dandelion and handed it to you. You said it was the prettiest flower you'd ever seen. Do you still have it? Pressed in a book. 30 years later, he laughed through tears. Of course you do. What else? Being 8, asking you at bedtime if you were going to leave like Mommy did. You promised you wouldn't. Did you believe me? Eventually, I kept testing you, knocking over juice, refusing to hold your hand, always asking when you were leaving. And I always came back. You always came back. Then Dad died. I was 12. I thought everyone I loved was going to leave. I screamed that at you, and you said, I'm not everyone. I'm your mom, and I'm staying. He wiped his eyes. I remember being 15, that huge fight. I said you weren't my real mother. You didn't yell. You just said, you're right, I'm not. Your real mother left, but I'm the one who stayed. He was crying openly now. And you were, at every single important moment. Of course I was. Mom, why did you stay? After Dad died, you could have walked away. You were only 39. Why did you choose me? I've been waiting for this question for 23 years. Daniel, you weren't a choice I had to make. You were the choice I got to make. The day I married your father, you became mine. When he died, that didn't change. You were my son at 6, at 12, and now. That was never in question. But you gave up so much. I gave up nothing. I gained everything. You were never a burden. You were my purpose, my joy. This is the best thing I've ever done with my life, even though I'm not really yours. You are really mine. Biology doesn't make a mother. Showing up makes a mother. I showed up every day for 23 years. That makes you mine in every way that matters. We sat there holding hands across the table, both crying. And I understood. This was enough. This was everything. 3 weeks passed. William's card sat on my dresser. Then Daniel got a call. Mount Zion Medical Center. The chief of cardiology had heard what happened. I heard you walked away from the Hales because they asked you to compromise your principles. That tells me more about your character than any recommendation. We'd like to talk to you. They offered him associate attending, path to chief within 7 years. Less money than the Hales, but honest work. He accepted. 4 weeks after that dinner, I called William. We met for coffee. He was already there, nervous. Thank you for coming. Why did you give me your number? Because I've spent 35 years wondering what my life would have looked like if I'd been brave enough to choose you. I'd like a chance to find out, as the people we are now. We're not 28 and 33 anymore. Maybe that's better. Maybe we needed to become these people before we could actually see each other. I don't trust easily. I don't blame you. I destroyed that once. I'd like a chance to rebuild it, however long it takes. We talked for 2 hours about the years between, his failed marriages, my life raising Daniel, loss and regret. I'm not ready for anything serious, but we can talk, coffee sometimes. That's more than I deserve. We started meeting weekly, then twice weekly, slowly learning each other again. Not as we'd been, young and reckless, but as we were now, older, wiser, carrying scars but also strength. 6 months later, William invited me to an art gallery. As a friend, just two people who enjoy art. We looked at paintings. At one point, standing before an abstract piece about second chances, he said quietly, "I'm not that weak boy anymore. I don't need you to fight battles for me. I can do that myself." I know, that's one of the things I love about you. Love. The word hung between us. I didn't say it back. Not yet. But I let him take my hand. 1 year after that dinner, Daniel called. "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet." Sarah, pediatric resident, smart, kind, middle class. Student loans and a beat-up Honda and a laugh that lit up rooms. "Mrs. Brooks, Daniel has told me everything about you. You're kind of his hero, which means you're kind of my hero, too." I liked her immediately. They married 2 years later. Small wedding in my backyard. William came. He brought a gift, a framed dandelion. I had it preserved, thought you might want it displayed instead of hidden. Sarah and Daniel bought a house 10 minutes from mine. Sunday dinners became tradition. 2 years later, Sarah called early one Tuesday. "Eleanor, it's time. We're heading to the hospital." I met them there. 8 hours later, a nurse came out smiling. "Congratulations, it's a girl." They let me in first. Daniel held a tiny bundle. "Mom, meet your granddaughter." He placed her in my arms. Perfect. Tiny. Daniel's eyes. "What's her name?" "Eleanor," Sarah said softly. "After you." I held this tiny person named after me, and I understood. Family isn't biology. Family is choice. Family is staying. Now I'm 63, sitting in my small house where I raised Daniel. William is in the kitchen making dinner. We've been together 3 years, building something real. In a few minutes, Daniel and Sarah will arrive with baby Eleanor for Sunday dinner. We'll sit around my small kitchen table and eat pot roast, and it will be perfect. Not perfect because we have money or status. Perfect because we chose each other, because we stayed, because we built something real from broken pieces. The Hales offered my son a hospital. He chose his mother. And in that moment, both of us were finally free. If you're listening and you've been told you're not enough, that your background disqualifies you, that your struggles make you unsuitable, listen carefully. The people who told you that were lying. Not because they were evil, because they were scared. Scared that admitting you were valuable meant admitting their privilege was just luck. So they built walls, called them standards, called them legacy. But really, those walls were just fear. When the Hales called my life a Hallmark movie, they meant your existence reminds people that character matters more than pedigree. They weren't protecting their family. They were protecting their fragile sense of superiority. You don't have to accept their verdict. You don't have to believe them. If you're a stepmother told your motherhood doesn't count, biology is an accident, showing up is a choice. If someone dismissed your work as humble work, there is no such thing as humble work when it keeps the world running. If you've been told you're too old for love, I'm 63, and I'm loved by a man who sees all of me and calls it beautiful. It's never too late to be chosen. It's never too late to choose yourself. For me, it was a 5-year-old boy with a dandelion, a son who chose his mother over a dynasty. And 35 years later, a man who finally found courage. That's what remains. That's what lasts. Thank you for listening. This is Eleanor Brooks, reminding you that you were always enough. You just needed to believe it. Until next time.